Heidegger warned that technology would drain life of its meaning. He was wrong. Love beat it to the punch. What you're about to hear is less a rant and more an autopsy, a post-mortem of the 21st century soul, a soul that's been sliced apart by ghosted texts, empty flings, and love that's sold by the algorithm. We live in an era where every relationship feels like a transaction, every promise like a short-term lease, and every broken man just another silent casualty in the war against emotional depth. Picture this. You're 19. It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, staring at your phone, hoping, no, praying for a text back. You've dissected every conversation you've had with her, analyzed every look, every laugh, trying to find the meaning behind it all. Your stomach is in knots, your chest is tight, and it feels like you're dangling over a cliff. And the only thing that could save you, her validation. So here's the brutal question. Why does it hurt that much? The truth is something most men spend their whole lives avoiding, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Romantic love, the kind we're all trained to crave like oxygen, is a cultural illusion, a dopamine-fueled carousel that spins just fast enough to keep you chasing shadows. And no one saw this more clearly than Martin Heidegger, the philosopher who stared into the void and tried to give it meaning. Let me take you back. France, 12th century. A knight named Abelard falls hopelessly in love with Eloise, a young scholar with a mind as sharp as his sword. Their love is wild, reckless, consuming. When her family finds out, they don't just disapprove. They sneak in and castrate him in his sleep. That's right. Mutilated. Brutal. And still, even after both are forced into separate monasteries, they keep writing to each other. Letters that smolder with passion and pain, decades later. Now compare that to your last Tinder conversation. You swipe, you chat, maybe you get a hey, maybe you go on a date, and she spends half of it checking Instagram stories. What the hell happened? Heidegger would argue that love, like so much of modern life, has been hollowed out. In Being and Time, he explains that most of us live in a mode he calls das Man, the they-self. It's a way of existing where our desires, our values, our choices aren't really ours. They're implanted by society. And nowhere is that more obvious than in how we love. Let's really think about this. That whole soulmate narrative? The one. That wasn't handed down by some ancient truth. It was invented by medieval poets to sell fairy tales. And it worked. Today, the dating industry thrives by keeping you desperate. Even your attraction isn't yours anymore. It's shaped by the media you consume, by Instagram filters, romantic comedies, and porn. Women are taught to expect a perfect Prince Charming. Men are trained to tolerate emotional neglect in exchange for crumbs of attention. And here's where it gets darker. In 18th century Japan, samurai practiced mujo, loving without attachment. They'd write poems to lovers they knew would eventually marry someone else. Why? Because they understood something we've forgotten. Love isn't about possession. It's not about being saved. Love is a fleeting glimpse of something beautiful and divine. And the second you try to own it, control it, demand it, you kill it. But we don't hear that message anymore. Today, love is pitched like a business deal. Be nice, get a reward. Be rich, get more options. Be funny, maybe she won't leave. We're told that if you follow the script, if you're successful, kind, charming, you deserve love. But that's not love. That's performance. And women can feel it. They can sense when you're not really connecting with them, but rather auditioning for a role in their life. That neediness, that subtle, gnawing desperation, it kills desire. So where do we go from here? Before we can rebuild anything, we have to expose the second, even deeper lie. How modern dating turns love into a capitalist game. And make no mistake, you're not just heartbroken, you're being farmed. Here's the setup. You wake up. Your phone buzzes. A dating app notification lights up. 5 new matches waiting. You open it. 4 bots and 1 woman who replies with LOL and disappears forever. Before you can even close the app, you see the upgrade offer. Boost your profile. Get 10 times more likes. This isn't romance. It's a slot machine. And you're the gambler, feeding it money and time, convinced the next swipe is your jackpot. Heidegger had a word for this: Gestalt, or enframing. It's the idea that technology reduces everything, even people, into resources. Data points, things to be used, optimized, and mined. And nowhere is this more brutal than in dating. Let me tell you a story. In the 1950s, psychologist Harry Harlow did an experiment. He took baby monkeys and separated them from their mothers. Then he gave them 2 surrogate options, one made of cold wire with a milk bottle, the other soft cloth with no food. Guess what? The monkeys clung to the cloth mother, even when they were starving. Harlow called this contact comfort, the need for warmth, for touch, for closeness. It was more powerful than the need for food. Now fast forward to today. You're alone, scrolling through Instagram, watching strangers live lives you'll never touch. You order food with a tap. You text instead of talk. You watch intimacy on a screen instead of living it. And when the loneliness creeps in, you open up Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, digital wire mothers, hoping one might finally soothe that ache. But they never do, because they can't. They weren't designed to heal you. They were built to hook you. Think about this. Dating apps rake in over $5.6 billion a year. Not because they help people find love, but because they keep people searching for it. The wedding industry, $300 billion, selling the fantasy that marriage equals happiness. Divorce lawyers, $50 billion, cleaning up the wreckage. Even self-help gurus are in on the game, turning your pain into $10,000 coaching programs. This isn't love. It's late-stage capitalism hijacking your biology. And here's the worst part. You've been taught to blame yourself. She ghosts you. I must not be attractive enough. She pulls away. I probably came on too strong. She chooses someone else. I'm not good enough. But the truth is way more sinister. In 2018, a Tinder insider revealed the app's algorithm is designed to keep you single. It gives you just enough success to stay hooked. A match here, a date there, never enough to leave. Because the second you find real connection, you stop spending. And that's bad for business. It's the same psychological trick casinos use. Intermittent rewards, random wins. They keep you chasing because maybe the next one will be it. But it never is. And this is where Heidegger's warning hits hardest. Technology doesn't just change what we do. It changes who we are. 500 years ago, men wrote sonnets, dueled over love, composed symphonies for women they barely knew. Today, you agonize over whether it's okay to double text. You've been trained to reduce the most intimate human experience into a notification. And that, right there, is the soul death. The part where love becomes nothing more than pixels and marketing. Look through the lens of history and you'll notice a pattern. Love has always been used to control people. In Victorian England, women were told that sex was shameful. Why? So they'd marry for security, not passion. In the 1950s, America, men were promised that a house in the suburbs and a smiling wife meant happiness. Why? So they'd stay obedient workers. And now, in the digital age, both men and women are being sold a lie that love is a marketplace. that romance is something to earn, to buy, to optimize. And if you fail, that's on you. But here's the thing, both sides are trapped. Romance novels and porn, two sides of the same fantasy coin. Women are fed stories where a billionaire dom with abs and emotional intelligence swoops in to rescue them. Men are taught that if they just hustle hard enough, a flawless 10 will appear, fix their wounds, and validate their worth. These aren't love stories. They're addictions dressed up as dreams. So what's the way out? You have to start with the most dangerous question Heidegger ever posed. Who am I when no one is watching? Because let's be honest, right now you don't love women. You love the idea of being loved by them. You love what they represent. Validation, purpose, escape. That's not love. That's dependency dressed up as romance. And it's why so many men are stuck in this loop. Real love, the kind that doesn't destroy you, can only come from someone who doesn't need it to feel whole. A man who can create meaning outside of attention. A man who doesn't approach women as saviors or threats, but as fellow travelers through a strange, absurd, often painful world. That's where genuine connection begins. But to even approach that place, you've got to confront something deeper. A wound that most men never even talk about. Let's name it. Male trauma. It's the quiet pain that lives beneath your surface, that ache behind every failed relationship, the heavy silence you feel after a breakup, the shame that makes you bottle everything up and tell yourself, just man up. This is the wound society won't let you name. But it's real, and it's killing men in slow motion. Heidegger described this as fallenness, when we abandon our true selves to meet the expectations of the world. And there's no clearer example than how men are expected to navigate love. Let me tell you a story. It's 1917, the trenches of Passchendaele, World War I. A British soldier named Private James Wyatt is found sobbing, clutching a letter. His fiancée left him for another man while he was deployed. His fellow soldiers laugh. His officers call him weak. 3 days later, he charges into no man's land without a rifle. He dies in silence, not from bullets, but from heartbreak wrapped in shame. Now jump to today. You sit with your friends after a breakup. You smile, sip your drink, nod as they say, "Plenty of fish in the sea, bro." You laugh along, but inside, you're drowning, and the world doesn't want to hear it. Because male pain is the most forbidden emotion in human history. Let's break down the 3 biggest lies modern men are taught. Lie number 1, vulnerability is weakness. In ancient Sparta, warriors wept openly for fallen comrades. Tears weren't a flaw, they were proof of honor. The Stoics, so often misused by self-help influencers, never said, "Don't feel." They said, "Feel deeply, but don't let it rule you." Seneca begged his friends in letters to share their grief, their doubts, their heartbreak. But now, you're told to shut up, hit the gym, hustle, get over it. Push the pain down and pretend it isn't there. And when that pressure cooker explodes as rage, addiction, or emotional numbness, you're called toxic. That's not strength, that's amputation. Lie number 2, your value is in your utility. Knights weren't praised because they were productive. They were honored for their courage, loyalty, and virtue. Their worth wasn't measured in coins, it was measured in character. But today, you're a resume, a job title, a credit score. You're only valuable if you produce. Women say they want emotionally intelligent men, but studies show again and again that status, confidence, and dominance still drive attraction. So what happens when you show need, insecurity, or vulnerability? You feel her pulling away. This is why so many men are drawn to the red pill space, not because they hate women, but because they're starving for truth in a world that keeps feeding them lies about what love and masculinity should be. Lie number 3. You are disposable. In 2023, a man in Tokyo jumped in front of a subway train after his wife left him. His final words in a suicide note: "Without her love, I am nothing." This is the darkest expression of male trauma, the belief that your worth is tied to someone else's affection. And our culture reinforces this. Divorce courts regularly gut men's lives, kids taken away, finances drained. Lonely women are praised as independent queens. Lonely men mocked as creeps, incels, losers. Even mental health campaigns often forget men exist, despite the fact that nearly 80% of suicides are male. You've been trained to believe your pain doesn't matter, that your grief is irrelevant, that you are a ghost in your own story. But here's what no one tells you. Your heartbreak isn't a random tragedy. It's engineered. Because a man who thinks he's unlovable will work harder to earn love. He'll buy diamonds. He'll suppress his dreams. He'll suffer in silence. A man who fears loneliness will tolerate mistreatment, betrayal, and emotional neglect. A man who believes his pain is shameful will never rebel against the system that exploits him. And this is exactly why Heidegger said most men live in the they, a state where we don't pursue our own truth, we chase what others tell us to want. We don't love women, we love being loved by them. We sell our souls for the hope of validation. Over and over again, we sign the same damn contract. I will sacrifice everything for crumbs of affection. But there's another way. The ancient samurai practiced something called mushin, no mind. A state where ego, fear, and craving dissolve. All that remains is clarity, action, presence. That's what modern men need to reclaim. Not the fake stoicism of the Instagram grindset crowd, not the rage of bitter cynics, but a deeper, quieter strength. The strength of a man who's looked his pain in the eye and no longer fears it. And even then, that's only half the battle. Because here's the final truth, the one most of us never get to see. Love is not what you think it is. You stand now at the edge of something massive. Everything you believed about love, every childhood fairy tale, every romantic movie, every midnight text thread, it all lies shattered at your feet. And what's left? Silence, but not an empty silence. Heidegger called it the clearing, the space where illusion burns away. The moment when you stop being a product of what the world told you to desire and start becoming something real. Because it's here, in that raw stillness, that real love begins. Not the love you were sold, the love that survives when all other loves die. Let me tell you a story. In 1924, a Japanese poet named Kenji Miyazawa sat by his sister's bedside as she died from tuberculosis. In her final breath, she whispered to him, "Kenji, promise me you'll live beautifully." He did. In the decade that followed, he wrote over 1,000 poems, not about despair, not about bitterness, but about awe, about stars and storms and rice fields, about pain and joy being one and the same. On his own deathbed at 37, his final words were, "No one truly grieves who is not loved beyond the personal." That's the secret. Modern love is small. It's a checklist. It's a deal made in fear. What can you do for me? It's fragile. It breaks under the weight of real life. But the love Miyazawa discovered, the love Heidegger pointed toward, it's something else entirely. It doesn't try to possess. It doesn't beg for meaning. It doesn't even promise happiness. It offers something more powerful: freedom. The ancient Greeks understood this. They had 4 words for love: eros, romantic passion; philia, deep friendship; storge, familial affection; agape, unconditional love. But modernity collapsed all of that into eros, and even that got corrupted. We turned passion into performance, romance into product, attraction into algorithm. Meanwhile, in 13th century Persia, Sufi mystics like Rumi wrote of love as annihilation, not of the other person, but of the self. To truly love, they said, is to dissolve, to shed ego, fear, control, and become a vessel for something divine. Even Nietzsche, often misquoted as a prophet of selfishness, saw love differently. He said, maturity is to regain the seriousness of a child at play. In other words, to love with wonder, not need, to celebrate another's existence, not demand they fix your pain. But that's not the story we're told. We're told that love is finding your other half, that someone will complete you, that healing lives in someone else's arms. It's not just a lie, it's a violence, because no one can complete you. And asking them to is like handing them a loaded gun and saying, please don't pull the trigger. Most men never recover from their first heartbreak. Not really. They fracture. They split into two kinds. The cynic. He decides love is a scam, builds walls, dates casually, if at all. He tells himself he's free, that he's a king, that he doesn't need anyone. But inside, he's just afraid. Afraid to feel again. Afraid to risk again. His heart becomes stone, and he mistakes that numbness for strength. The addict. He swings the other way. He turns every woman into a salvation project. He shapeshifts, becomes whoever she wants him to be. He gives everything, hoping one day someone will finally stay. And each time she doesn't, a little more of him dies. His life becomes a haunted house, each room echoing with the ghost of who he almost was. But there is a third path. Imagine this. You meet someone. There's passion, connection, but something is different. You don't need her. You don't panic when she pulls away. You don't beg her to fill the void. Why? Because you've touched what the Zen masters call the deathless, the part of you that isn't shaken by loss, that doesn't beg for approval, that doesn't collapse when left alone. From that stillness, you love differently. You love without ownership. Like the samurai who wrote poems to cherry blossoms, knowing they would fall. You love like that, fully, fiercely, but with open hands. You love without salvation. You don't expect her to rescue your inner child, to fix what your parents broke, to be your therapist, your purpose, your home. You've already done the work. You carry your own weight. You hold your own heart. You love beyond the personal. Even if she leaves, even if she betrays, the love doesn't rot. Because it was never about possession. It was never about control. It was a gift. And gifts, once given, don't require anything in return. This isn't indifference. It's the opposite. It's the fiercest kind of love. The kind that refuses to die just because the story didn't end the way you wanted. So how do you love like this in a world that hates it? 1. Become ungovernable. Stop letting the system tell you what to want. Stop chasing apps, aesthetics, and rules written by people who profit from your loneliness. Delete the dating apps. Burn the scripts. Love in a way that's wild, strange, yours. 2. Fall in love with the world. Heidegger spoke of being in the world, not escaping reality, but immersing in it. Learn to see the sacred in the ordinary, in the sound of wind through leaves, in the tired eyes of strangers, in the soft ache of a rainy day. A man who loves the world is never starved for love. 3. Build a brotherhood. The Spartans said, a man without brothers is already dead. And they were right. You need men who see you, who don't need you to be cool or rich or strong, just real. Men who will sit with you in the fire, in the silence, in the long nights after heartbreak. Modernity made friendship transactional. Break that spell. Reclaim it. sabotage that lie. Heidegger once wrote that man is not the master of being, but its shepherd, not its controller, not its victim, its caretaker. So tend to your love like it's a sacred fire. Let it warm you. Let it burn away what's false. And when the winds come, as they always do, let it roar. This is your task, not to conquer women, not to win love like a prize, but to become the kind of man who can love without fear, without need, without lies. And if this truth strikes something in you, if it wakes up a part of you that's been asleep, then write this in the comments. Mushin, the samurai state of no mind, where fear dissolves, where ego melts, where only action remains. Because that's what love is. Not performance, not possession, not pain. Presence, fully here, fully open, fully alive.